Hey everyone, Face here. Well, now that Prime and the new Mobius Viper are out of the way, it's time to take a look at my other recent acquisition, that being Tamiya's latest in their 1/32nd scale. Wow, that's a big box. The latest in their 1/32nd scale aircraft series, their P-51D Mustang. As is standard with Tamiya kits, it features a gorgeous hand-painted box art of a P-51 in action with another one flying in the background. Beautiful, beautiful piece of box art. I mean, this would make a great poster for any fan of the P-51. There's mentions on the top how it comes with some sort of folder. Not really sure what that means. I have glanced through the box, but I haven't looked at it that closely. Talks a little bit about the technical specs of the kit. The size has a wingspan of 354 millimeters. That's about 14 inches, I think, if I'm doing the math correctly. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous box. And like I said, very, very large. Box bottom, or bottom side, has alternate paint schemes that can be done with this particular incarnation of the kit. Box top has some photos of the assembled model, including one showing off the flight stand option. The one next to it actually showing off the engine, which is fully detailed, and the engine cowlings are removable once or after assembly, I believe using magnets, which I think they've done with a couple of their other 32nd scale releases to date, but it's the first time I've seen it done in a kit that I've owned, so it's a neat little feature. So, enough about the box. Let's see what's inside the box. That is a pretty full box. First up, we've got a little two-page fold-out showing off the marking scheme as it appears on the box top. Full color, very nicely detailed. Doesn't look overly complicated, but so should be fairly simple to mask and paint. Next up, I guess this is what they meant by when they said on the box there was a folder inside. As you can see, it's a replica of the box art, but inside has, rather unusually, a flyer, like you might see in a magazine advertisement, showing off the model, talking a bit about the technical details, and a little about the history of the aircraft itself. I'm not sure why they're advertising a model I've already bought inside the model I've already bought, but, you know, whatever. The other side has some co-cells for some of their other 32nd scale aircraft, such as F-14, Spitfire Mark 8 and 9, F-16, F-4, and a couple of different models of Zeros. Instruction booklet is fairly standard for Tamiya. It's a booklet printed in black and white with a photo of the assembled model on the cover. Inside, the front page has some technical information about the Mustang itself, printed in Japanese on the first page, English, then German, and finally French on the last page. You've got tool callouts, paint callouts, some warning information about applying paints and glues and whatnot. The same kind of stuff that's on pretty much all models. Assembly begins with the engine. Not surprisingly, lots and lots of detail, lots and lots of parts. I mean, this, from the looks of it, the engine is practically a kit in and of itself. I mean, that's pretty shockingly cool looking. Moving back into the cockpit, you got your photo etch seat belts made of multiple parts. Looks like two different options for the pilot seat. Lots and lots of detail. Looks fairly simple to follow. Talks a little bit here about the magnets that'll be used to attach some of the additional bits and pieces, such as the engine cowlings and the landing gear bays, which, from what I understand, are removable and can be replaced with closed doors should the builder choose to switch back and forth between the landed and in-flight. Next up, now we're looking into like some of the plumbing for the engine, engine exhausts, rudder, which is designed to be articulated, as are all the control surfaces. Tail wheel, again, like the main landing gear, as we'll get to shortly, is designed to be removed. There's two separate components. There's the retracted and deployed, both of which can be extended or can be removed and replaced using magnets. And now we're getting into the armament. I've got 3 machine guns per wing, with you can display with doors open or closed, and includes ammo belts for each gun. Now we're into the control surfaces for the wing, the ailerons and flaps, which again are articulated. We've got rubber tires for the landing gear. And the strut, the spring strut for the suspension, it looks like you have the option of plastic part or a photo etched metal part, so that's a nice touch. Has 2 different drop tanks. Has the 75-gallon and the 108-gallon. You got your standard 4-blade propeller. Appears to attach with a poly cap, so it'll spin nice and smoothly. Now we're getting into the canopy and the masking tape seals for it, and engine cowlings, which, like I said, are attached with magnets, which are embedded into the framework of the aircraft's nose, and each panel has a couple of photo etch parts glued to them, which act as the contact points for the magnet. So the plastic parts are able to remain very, very thin. Now, see if you looking here, you can see there. Like I said, there's the option to display it landed or in flight. This is the assembly step for the base and for the alternate landing gear doors, should you choose to display them closed. And finally, paint guide for the pilot's figures, one seated obviously and one standing, and getting into the marking guides for the 2 alternate marking schemes. It's a very comprehensive manual. Here's an interesting little addition. Tamiya was kind enough to include this little booklet with basically a history book about the P-51. It's sort of a condensed history. You've got lots of photos, lots of line drawings, biographical history and technical history in both Japanese and in English. Lots of photos. Lots of photos. Lots of photos. It's actually a pretty cool book. Oh, this is actually a pretty neat feature. You've got identification for all the different bits and pieces, all the different parts. So you got your line drawings with radiator oil cooler intake, radiator flaps, calling out what everything is essentially. So for people like me who just straight up don't know, it's a nice thing to have. Talks a little bit more about some of the different variants from the prototype through to the final versions, the prototypes and the earliest versions having, I believe, what they called the Razorback style cockpit, the canopy that sort of blended directly into the tail, while the D and the other similar versions all had have the bubble. And then finally, lots more photos. Wow, lots more photos. This is going to be an indispensable resource for building and painting this thing. I mean, the more photos you can find, the better. I mean, there's lots of photos of surviving Mustangs to be found on the internet. millions of them, in fact, if you know where to look. But to have everything, put together in this one place, all condensed like this, just as a quick reference, is really quite handy. So yeah, I'll be referring to this probably quite a lot during my build, whenever I should get to it. And finally, before getting to the parts, we've got the stickers, which can go on the nameplate. And finally, before we get to the parts, we've got all of the masking seals called out as to which one goes where in the instructions, I believe, for the canopy and windscreen. Let's see if I can... Fucking eye. Finally... And finally, before we get to the parts, we've got all of the masking seals, as well as a sticker for the display stand, should you choose to use it, and 2 decal sheets. One of which, this one's got the roundels, the squadron markings, most of the individual markings for each different variant aircraft. Well, the second smaller sheet has the 3rd variant. Has the instrument panel decals, and most of the stencils. And they're printed with Tamiya's usual fidelity. I don't know if you can quite get close enough to focus on that, but see, I can see that. It says ammunition and gun access. Caution, do not lift. Let's see, that one, after coolant something, can't quite make it out. But these are all printed very, very small. Like that last one, after coolant something or other, is only about 3 or 4 millimeters across. So it's very well printed to be legible at that size.